What's up everyone, James here again, and I want to thank you so much for checking out this video. Hello everyone, my name is James Shotwell. I am the Director of Customer Engagement at Holics.com, and today we are celebrating 20 years of Rude Records. One of my favorite record labels, longtime clients of Holics, big part of our big alternative music family that we love to support here at Holics Live. And I have the masterminds, two of the big brains at Rude Records here with me today. So if you guys would like to introduce yourselves real quick, coming to us all the way from Italy, we'll get started. So whoever wants to go first, why don't you tell us who you are and what you do with Rude?
Hey, James and everyone. Thanks very much for the introduction. It's great to have this warm welcome. Thanks very much to everyone. Well, yeah, we're in Italy. We're right now in Italy. It's what's the time? It's 6 p.m. right now, and I'm Ilich, and I'm the president right now of the company that has grown through the years, and I am one of the two the owners of the company, and I started the company a long time ago, 20 years ago. So it's been a great path so far. It's been a roller coaster, but so far so good. So it's great to finally be 20 years old. That's a great thing.
Yeah, and hello everyone, and I'm Federico, and nice to meet everyone that will see this live stream. And thank you, James, for the opportunity to host us and to have a chat about Rude and its history and the present and the future of the label. I oversee the A&R department, and I'm also the general manager of the company, so I take care about all the stuff from signing an artist to developing his career and making the first and the best steps possible in the music industry. That's what I do.
Wonderful. Well, I'd love to start at the very beginning of the journey for this label. So Ilich, I'm going to get it right before this is over.
You got to make it.
I'm getting so close. Can you give us give me like the origin story? Tell me, like, did you come from another label before Rude launched? Like, what is the story of how the label got started 20 years ago now?
Well, I think that's very interesting, actually, because it's not a common story. I was right after I finished high school, I went to university and I started studying natural sciences, but I thought the music was my thing. And I started working very young. I was probably 20, 21. I started working in a very big indoor venue that is not close to our office here. And it started, being part of that thing. And I've seen big bands. I had a chance to meet people from the music industry. And I thought that was going to be my life, hopefully. But I had to face a problem. I was not good at playing music, so I thought I want to still be part of part of this thing, but I need to find a way to be part of it. And what happened is that with a friend of mine that was a sound engineer, we thought that we wanted to understand how this band's made to play on this stage. So what was before that? So how a band was promoted, how a band was produced, and to get finally, the chance to play in front of such a big crowd. So it all started by chance with this friend, and we started a label. We started to sign local bands at the very beginning. But after a while, we were, I should say, lucky. Probably not the rest of the world wouldn't, agree on this, but we were lucky that some American labels that were based over here in Europe just started to dismantle their headquarters over here, because from 1999 basically on until mid of the early 2000s, there has been a very big crisis. So this crisis hit the music industry because of piracy, and we know the story, right? So, and we proposed them to work for them over here. So in a different way that they did before, they didn't have any front costs to face up front, so they didn't have any risk. We were their partners over here, so we would have worked together to grow their artists. So we signed the first contracts to represent some American labels overseas, so over here in mainland Europe. And we started working with Nitro Records. That was the very first record label we worked with. And I had a chance to know Dexter Holland during a tour, and I proposed that, and he was fine with that. So we started to grow our catalog, and that was an international catalog. And so we grew internationally. It was a very big challenge at the very beginning, since we're in a weird market. So we're based in Italy. There's no example of labels doing what we're doing, but we grew up internationally offering the services to other labels, and then we became friends with a lot of bands, and we started touring all around the world, and then started signing bands directly. That happened a long time ago. So we have our own catalog. But after Nitro Records, we started working with Side One Dummy. So we had a chance to work with Flogging Molly, Gogol Bordello, Badwin Soundclash, the Gaslight Anthem, and beat bands like that. So that was great. And then after that, there were a few labels that started calling us because we were doing a good job, apparently. And Hopeless Records was another incredible partner for us. So we still label managing them over here, and we had a chance to work with great people and with great bands. And that's the story. I've shown it a little bit, but if there is any question, I could definitely answer it.
No, I think you did a great job, and you touched on some of the iconic early releases of the label. Obviously, I'm jealous of your Dexter Holland connection there. That was a nice little name drop you put into the middle of your story there. That's good.
Yeah, I can tell you a bit more about that if you want.
Go ahead, please do.
Oh, that was very interesting. So we had a local band at the very beginning of Rude Records story, and that local band was very inspired by The Offspring. So we tried in any ways to play on their tour. So they were coming over in Europe, and we finally made it by keep talking to people, keep sending emails, keep calling everyone, and we made it. So we had a chance to play with them. And at some point, we were in Barcelona by then. The manager, the Dexter Holland manager, he called me, and he said, Dexter wants to invite you for a drink. So we took a taxi, we took a cab, and we went downtown. So we went in the city center of Barcelona. And so we were sitting one in front of each other. So that was my dream. And we started talking about music, about passion, about how the Nitro Records was doing and how he thought it was going to develop it. So we said, okay, I'm here. So if you need any help, we can definitely help you guys over here. We love the same genre. We're doing the same kind of bands. So we're good to work with you. And the first record that we put out, I remember, was Rufio. I'm not sure if you remember them.
Yeah, totally remember Rufio. I'm in my 30s. I know who Rufio is.
Of course. And we started a great relationship until he finally and eventually sold the label lately in, I think it was 2008, 2010 to Concord. And then we haven't worked together ever since, but we're still good friends.
No, that's great. That's a good story. Thank you for sharing. And Federico, when do you come into the fold? How did you get involved in this world?
10 years ago, basically. Yes, this year I'm celebrating my 10-year anniversary at the label.
Hey.
And the fun story about this is that I started as an intern on the promotion and marketing side. So I was using Ilich a lot. And then my experience grew and my knowledge grew to the point that where I was asked to stay after the internship, and I tried to find my role in the company, as we were like, the team was very low in people. We were like 5 or 6 probably at the time. So there was the space. Ilich was covering the A&R department at the time, and he needed a hand like to work on the label, on like managing the label properly, doing the label management thing for third parties, as we were saying before. So there was the need, like, and there was like the chance for someone, and that was me, like to take it to develop the artistic side of the label, starting to sign our own artists. And that's the development of the story. I remember probably the first artist we did sign with, we signed together, was the Main, probably, which was a band that I was a huge fan of. So we're speaking of 2011, which was like after like the first year I was at the company. And that's where I am now. I'm now still like trying to sign good artists, and artists that we are fan of, which is a key thing for us. We always sign artists that we do like and we are fans of first, so we can like give them the best opportunities, the best counsel possible to like develop their careers, basically. And that's my little story about how I started and how I went to this point.
Well, you're actually, very humble.
Yeah. Well, actually, can I add something to this? Well, no, the funny thing about Fad, so he said that he started as an intern, and well, it was great. So he's still here. I think is a great A&R. But at the very beginning, well, the music industry was still, in a big crisis. So when we talked one day, and he said, well, I'd like, to keep working in the music industry. And we said, well, man, that's impossible. You won't make it. I mean, yeah, all labels are firing people. So to redeem their thing, it's going to be hard. We said, you're not going to make it. And now, I mean, is part of the company, one of the owners as well. So it's great to see. That's a very nice story.
Yeah, the fun fact is that I was a huge fan of the label because a band of friends of mine was signed to the label in the early, when I was like in high school. So I was already familiar, and it was like a dream come true to go work for the label that my friends were signed to. And so it was like a full circle, right? I managed to get a work, or at least an internship, at the record label I was a fan of. There was a lot of bands I was a fan of, like AFI from the Nitro catalog, the Offspring, of course, and all the punk rock bands. I grew up listening to punk rock bands, so it was the perfect place. And they told me, you don't have a career here. I was like, oh, I need to find a way to make that work. And we made it.
Well, that's great news. And what I love about Rude Records is that I feel like so many labels that get started do so to, release their favorite band's albums to their local community or to their region. They'll be like, there's a really big band in the Midwest. I'm going to start a record label that primarily targets people in the Midwest. But Rude has like a much, like 10 times bigger vision where it's like, we're going to take these bands and give them an international platform. And I'm curious, was that always the goal of the company? Was it always like, we want to be this stepping block to help bands from anywhere reach a global audience? Or did it start smaller and the vision just kind of grew with time?
Well, at the very beginning, so I should start a chance to that. At the very beginning, as I said, we started signing local bands, but we already have a vision, an international vision to grow and sign bands from anywhere. So the only way to do it, like being based in Italy, which is not a big market. So we're inviting our friends in the United States, founding labels, and they had like a great scene to be referred to and sign bands from a great scene. Being here, we had to be international, and the right way was starting working for some labels from the United States, from overseas, and represent them over here. So we got to know, in this way, we got to know a lot of people from the industry, managers, bands, booking agents, and I've traveled a lot. So we had that vision at the very beginning, I think. So we just, it was all about to find a way to make it happen. And then finally and eventually, when all, managers got to know us and they thought that we were reliable, they started, you know, um, offering bands to us, and we said, okay, they're good, definitely. We want to grow. We want to grow these bands, and if we like the music, we still like this, right? So uh, uh, besides thinking about how many records they can sell, well, that's pretty old. How many streams they can put together? I think that we need to like the music. We need to like the project. We need to like the people that we'll be working with, because it's based on that.
Mm,
Yeah, and
smart.
it's the same right now. To
Mhm.
like that vision is shared, and it's always shared with the artist and the manager we do work with these days. And it might seem a bit strange as we are based in Italy, but and it's like such a small market, and there's no spot for international music over here besides huge mainstream acts, right? So what I always do, and what we always do, and we chat with manager, agents, bands, is like to give them the feeling that we want to grow a band in a consistent and cohesive way on a global scale. So we treat the US in the same way we do treat Australia or the United Kingdom, mainland Europe, Southeast Asia. So we treat every country in the same way. We try to have someone on board in each of these key countries for us, besides Italy, basically. But that's just because the market isn't ready for this kind of the music we do. But unless
Mm,
you're a top like rock band or alternative band.
mm. I'd love to know how you find the talent that joins the Rude Records family, especially these days, because you guys do have groups from all over the world, and people here in the United States maybe will recognize a lot more of them than maybe in some of the other countries you market to, because a lot of them do have stateside label deals, like Stand Atlantic, for example. But you guys have nonetheless found a way to harvest bands from all over the world. So I know, Federico, you are working the A&R part of Rude, but obviously the whole team is involved. So can you tell me a little bit about how you find the artists that ultimately make up your roster?
That's a big secret we can tell. No, I'm kidding. I
uh,
mean, being in Italy, I mean, that's the challenge. Being in such a small market and trying to work with international artists puts you in the position like to find all the tools, like to discover new tools and to be receptive as much as you can. So what I do basically is spending my days and nights on the internet now that we can't go on tours, we can go to shows, or
Mhm.
festivals. I just spend my all day like trying to find the sounds that I'm looking for. It's super easy with tools like and DSPs like Spotify or Apple Music, like to find similar to what I'm thinking that could work for us. And then you just start like researching, find like the direct contacts. What I always say to everyone and to our team is that we're one email away from making something happen. So that's what we do. We find and select and scout the talents that we do like, and then we just to reach out in the best way possible, whether it's a direct contact or trying to find like a middleman, let's say, whether it's a manager that we know, an agent that we know. We've been growing like the reputation of the label. Of course, it's grown from the very beginning to now, and we are well recognized from basically all the players, all the people in the industry. So hopefully they have like good words to say about us, and that's something that helps, of course. But the scouting nowadays is based on the internet, like YouTube, watching videos, like performances. There's something that I always like to check is how a band can sound live. So it's super interesting, like to see sessions on audio tree or kind of like that balcony TV, whatever needs to be. I mean, it could be helpful, right? So that's one of the things that could change a judgment, in my opinion, like to find if a band is ready for us and if we are ready to get this band on board.
Mm.
yeah, yeah.
I think it's interesting that you mentioned Audio Tree, because I do feel like it's even though we're living in a digital age, it's very much the people who take that extra step to help bands find a platform that ultimately do the most to help them get ahead. 20 years ago, or even 2 years ago, when we weren't living in a pandemic, if there are those small to mid-level clubs that are independently owned that are giving artists a stage that they normally wouldn't be able to get onto, and that's where those bands are taking off. And now it's Audio Tree who are finding ways to make these events happen despite what's going on, and still giving us that extra platform. And much like Rude, giving audiences around the world a chance to discover some of these bands that are blowing up in their local region.
Yeah, exactly. That is one of like the best example I could do. I mean, there's a lot of similar things like to compare to Audio Tree, but I believe that they are somehow replacing, especially right now, like as you said, small clubs. We signed bands just from hearing them at a festival, and now it's not possible. So you need like to find different ways to replicate that situation, basically, like to find a way to check them out properly when they are playing live. And Audio Tree was a great example, like to show how a band is behaving and performing live, and that it's surely one of the most interesting thing, in my opinion, like to understand where a band is in which part of their career they are when we check them out.
Yeah. Well, sometimes there's even other ways, to get in contact with bands. I mean, well, there's another funny story where Federico was looking for a band that is called Will Away, and they talked for a long time about how we liked them and how we wanted them to be on board on our label. But they finally said, we don't think, we still wanted to go independent. But they started, talking about wrestling all of a sudden, and discovered that they had a common interest. And they started talking about that so much that they found themselves that were on the same page, and they said, okay, let's do a deal now.
Almost, yeah. I mean,
that is super funny.
Yeah, that was funny. I mean, I always try to find a way like to create some empathy between me and the counterpart, let's say. And I believe that always trying to build a relationship that it's not just based on the work part of it, especially like doing a deal and then working on something. We always like to say that Rude is a business, but it's more of made as a family, right? So we try to be as much transparent as possible with everyone, so it's easy for us to have like topics are outside of the music business that could be like easily shareable. One is wrestling with I Will Always manager. For example, we're good friends with the guys in Sound 41, and Dave, the guitar player, is an avid soccer or football fan. So when we meet, we always chat about AC Milan or Newcastle, as he's a huge fan of Newcastle. That's how you keep the relationship growing, and that's how you create trust, and you are reliable for someone. They can just send you an email because they know that you're someone that they like to spend time with. So yeah, that's another way. Like creating good relationship is surely one of the best way to discover and to have like a sort of easy path to be like the first one to hear something. This happened, for example, with Mike Pepe, which is like a producer. It's probably well known, and it's now a good friend. And he did produce Sundress last album, Home Remedy, and he said, "Oh, I have something that you have to listen to." And I was like, "Send it over, man. I'm always ready to listen to some new music and to some new artists, especially that now that we have like this relationship." And it was Sydney Sprague, and we ended up signing her as well. So you create this kind of like network which is ever growing. You need, of course, to be always on top of it. So you need like to have like to spend some hours like chatting with everyone, making sure that everyone is okay and they have something to share with you, or just like to spend some time chatting about wrestling, soccer, or whatever, right? And that's probably that's the best way to discover new talents. the relationship. But if you want to, if you have some spare time, you should just like check bands whenever you can, all the rest of your like work schedule, let's call it
The old school way.
Yeah.
That
The old
remains the
school,
same.
but in a new school way, because when
Old but gold. Yeah, of course.
No, yeah, I absolutely agree. I was sitting here this morning thinking about talking to somebody about how I always feel like as I get older, you keep trying to stay with your ear to the street, but you kind of like go. I'm always like I'm on the second story. I haven't quite gotten all the way back down to the street yet, and I'm always trying to find the band that's like right there at the beginning level. I'm always my research these days is mostly I watch Twitter and find the influencers who are like talking about the bands that I've not yet heard of. So I'm like second wave discovering things, and I'm trying to find my way back to being part of that first wave again.
It's
Yeah.
hard, man. It's hard.
It's tough. I mean, social media, it's surely in general, but Twitter, it's mostly used in the US, and it's surely something very interesting for us that we are not used. In Italy, Twitter is used most like for trash talking and politics. Politics, that's the two topics that are trending properly. So it's it's difficult to find music on Twitter, but if you manage to find like the right people to follow, you create like your small network of like influencers, as you were saying, that could just like pop a tweet, do a tweet with a link of a new exciting band. And if you are curious and if you spend your 5 minutes like to check them out, you might end up liking it. In our case, we might end up liking it very much, and also like trying to sign them to the label.
Well, let me ask you guys this. You've had we've all had a pretty crazy year, and something that we talk about in this series a lot is trying to adjust to this new normal. So you guys have put out quite a few records over the last year. And right before we hopped onto this, I was telling you that I really enjoyed the Sundressed album. I think it's really fantastic. And they've been doing a ton of press, and Big Picture here in the United States has been helping with PR. But I'm curious, as a label, how have you found to be the most successful ways to promote new music during this pandemic when you can't be like, go see this band live, especially with a roster like yours, which is filled with bands that are really good and can really sell themselves if you put them on a stage. But in a world where they can't do that, how are you guys finding is good for marketing?
You always need to think a bit outside of the box, right? It was the same when touring was a thing. Good ideas always pay off. That's what I think. And I believe that despite all like the negative that this coronavirus and pandemic brought us, like we are in a tough position, of course, as a record label, but we have the luck to give our artists a platform to express themselves, whether it's having their album or EP reviewed in a magazine, and that's the old school thing. But also we tried with all of those that we released last year and we are releasing this year to find new ways to make them connect with their fan base. And the new school, which is mostly based on everything that it's on the internet, it's new apps like Discord, for example. Bandcamp is another like platform that could be very helpful, like to connect the artist and a new fan base. Live streaming, kind of behind the scenes documentary thing that we are already working on. So you need to find something that is positive, and that's the connection. Because the thing that I like about tours and shows is the connection between the artist and its fan base. That's what it's all about, right? Yeah. And we are missing this huge link. How do we find a way to keep this connection and to grow this connection even more now that tours can happen, now that festivals can happen? How do we grow them? How do we grow them to the point where when shows will be back again, there will be like a huge new wave of fans to like connect to these artists in addition to the existing fan base they had before? there's no playbook for this. I mean, you need to be relevant, you need to be creative, you need to be diverse somehow. There's no recipe. Otherwise, everyone will be doing the same thing over and over again, and we'll all be bored about this kind of live stream thing. But whether it's like you sit down and chat about your passion and you do just a couple of covers, or you just play video games with your fan base, there's a lot of examples that are trending and have been going on in the past 6 months ish, that could be could pave the way to a new way of connecting to your fan base until shows are back again. I'm not sure if I'm answering to all the questions, because it's a huge topic, and there's no right answer to this. But I saw some live streams, and the Architects one, for example, it was huge. It was a huge event. There was a lot of demand for it, but it was relevant because it was made in that way. Not all the bands can do that. Not all the bands have the history, the background to do that. So you need to understand where you are as an artist, and then try to find the best way for you to connect with your fan base. You have a variety of options, so you just might. The only advice I could give is try. Just keep trying. Something will work out, and that's it. Until we have shows back.
No, I think that's amazing advice. And I love a good live stream. I've paid for several, and I've watched several more that are free, but it is something where I find myself thinking that most of the artists that I watch are in a position where they have a giant audience, or they have a label behind them, or they have some kind of budget where that's they can afford to rent out a venue, hire a crew, set up all the video streaming, do all of the nuts and bolts that are required, and then still somehow make a profit off of doing this.
Exactly.
There aren't a lot of just starting out bands. I haven't seen too many DIY multicam live stream events taking off just yet. And the ones I have, I'm it's weird, because the ones who are able to do it at such a high level got out the gate doing it so quickly that when these DIY acts try to do it and it isn't up to snuff, I think fans kind of tune out, because they're oh, why isn't it as good as the Architects one? And it's well, money. Yeah. I don't know, what else is there to say?
Yeah.
Go ahead, man.
No. I said that's the point anyway. So if you do a good production, and if you play in a big tour, then this is going to be good. It's going to pay off, and fans are going to love it. It's the same thing. The logic is right the same, but the good thing apparently is that this coronavirus has accelerated that process that was already there, but that process is not going to stop. It's not going to end at the end of this. And I think this is a good thing, since bands and managers and labels will try to find the best way to promote their bands through these new platforms. That's good, since basically you have the chance with these new platforms to play in front of a huge audience at the same time. It won't still be, you'll miss the contact with fans, you miss the show, you miss that thing that is something different, but still you might have the chance to see something unique in any ways. The difference will still be how many money you put into production, yes, of course, but at the same time we'll probably get used to that, and it's going to be a normal thing for bands to do in the future.
I totally agree. We have the as they say, you can't put the genie back in the bottle. I think live streaming is here to stay, but hopefully as venues reopen, I think we'll see a lot of them start adapting some live stream technology, maybe built into certain events. It's something I keep kind of coming back to. It would make sense for a venue to offer artists the option of also live streaming an event, adding a digital ticket sale to their show, and then hopefully everyone makes a little bit more money when things start rolling again, because I would tune into that. And for a label like you, that would be amazing news, because people all over the world can see the band that isn't able to tour outside the United States and Europe just yet.
Yeah, exactly. That's the accelerator, right? Giving the possibility to fans we are in Italy, we use Italy as an example. in Italy to connect to a show in LA, it's a huge value. And also it makes the venue or like the promoter like to try and the artist, of course, like to connect with multiple fans. So you have no cap potentially to that kind of show. The only thing is how you make them diverse between one and another, because the fact is that when you do a tour for an artist, especially, you're gonna play like basically the same set list over and over, like for a month or for 2 months. So you need to find multiple ways like to be creative and to try and involve these kind of new tools into your touring schedule. That is surely an additional adding some value to what you are doing on your performances. So the good thing, as we were saying, we try to see the positive. This huge live stream that went so well, Architects one, the Underworld one, are like paving the way from others, like to try and do that, not to copy that, but to reach that kind of level of greatness that they put together in a live stream. If we can translate that back into shows, that's great. If we can translate that into shows plus additional live streams, let's say that the acoustic sessions that they always do, like for VIP fans, those could be live streamed to others. And there's a way to make more money, let's say, but also like to connect with more people.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Who knows? Ideas, throw in ideas.
No, I love it. I need to bring you guys back for more brainstorming sessions in the future. But I want to know about 2021 and Rude Records. So as I already said, you guys put out some really stellar records last year. We're only in January of this year. It's kind of it's even weirder than last year in a lot of ways, because there is this light at the end of the tunnel, but where that light happens and where the tunnel ends is different for every territory. And it's also shifting on a daily basis. So, what do you guys have on the docket this year that you can tell me about, and how much more is there that you're like, maybe we'll do that?
That's still on fast.
We didn't know it was all about the secrets. This chat is this panel is all about the secrets. But yeah, we announced during 2020 we celebrated properly the anniversary weekend. We announced a couple of bands that we signed, so everyone knows that we have some music coming from A Wheel Away, from Modern Error, from Weather State, and these are like the 3 signings that we did announce in 2020 that are like leading into releasing on new music. Who knows if it's a single, an EP, or an album? We can't say anything about this, but
we something is in the work.
We don't even know. No, we know something. We know something, but we can spoil it. So those are surely 3 artists. We're gonna have some music out in 2021. We are still working on the Sydney Sprog release. That will be our first official release for 2021. There's a couple of new singles and new releases that are coming in the next few months. There's a lot of releases that we can talk about in this very moment, and that's a pity. We might do another panel when the year is ended, and we can chat about those. We're still working also like to find new talents and scouting new artists, because we don't want to stop. So considering this situation, and as you said, James, and that's the truth, in each country this could develop in a different way, right? For example, in Australia, and we have some Australian bands that are going to release music, they can tour. They can properly tour. It's a socially distanced tour, of course, social distance tours and shows, but they have this option available. So we can work towards a release in the old school way, right? But we need to adapt our release schedule for 2021 also for these artists that can tour or that are facing like the impossibility of like shooting a music video because there's a restriction going on. Of course, we are moving plans around to our release schedule, making sure that we can release the more stuff possible this year without like rushing it, but also like making sure that we can give the fans new music from all the artists that we have on the roster.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's been a very, last year, as Pat said, it's been a very stressful year for artists, especially. They didn't know what was going to happen when they were able to go back and play. And anytime we thought that this was going to end, but this is lasting longer than expected, as you said, and as you correctly said, there's different, possibilities in different countries to finally get out of this situation. But we're trying with the artists that we work with to find the best way for them to not to not push back too long the releases, but still find the right way to promote them. Some of them that just think that without touring it would be a waste to just release the record like as it is. Some other bands they think that we should anyways release something, otherwise they would disappear by the radar of their fans. And that's a tricky situation. They're both right, but we need to find the good balance where they're happy with what they're doing. There's another thing that some of the bands have recorded music maybe a few months ago, and as we know, artists after a while they get bored with what they did, and they might end up saying, I'm going to record something new. So that's there might be another problem. But in anyways, we helped out our artists in how much we could, like helping them even financially for those bands that were not able to tour at the beginning of last year. So right after the coronavirus was a thing, they got all tours canceled. We helped them out. It's different from our side, and on a record label we still have a lot to do. There's a big catalog to be still out there and still streaming and people listening to it. So we just signing new bands. Probably we got all the bands and the releases scheduled for this year. We got a few more, but we're already good with that, since pushing back everything. Now we're good with the 2021 schedule almost. But yeah, we'll get rid of this situation for sure very soon. Let's see how soon it can be. We'll help out our artists to go through it if that's the case.
I love it. No, that sounds good. It sounds promising. You didn't give away too much, but you've got me excited to see what you guys roll out. Before I let you go, I gotta ask a few basic questions that I think have come up already, and I'm sure you guys get asked all the time. But let's just push through them, educate the people a little bit. So we've talked a lot about finding new music. You guys keep your ear to the ground. You're listening to new stuff. You're watching stuff. But let's say, I've got a record that you need to hear. What's the best way to pitch the Rude Records team? I imagine that I can just send you an email, but, I imagine you get a lot of those. So how can I stand out if I want to be a part of the Rude Records family?
Good question. I mean, we created an email, a dedicated email for this, and I can assure you that it's in my inbox. So I listen to everything that comes in. Mm-hmm. That's one of the things I do. I check everything out, because you never know. There's multiple examples in our catalog of bands that did send their music to an email that is music@ruderecords.com. Mm-hmm. And it was info before, but now we changed it to music because it's more related to that need for us, to receive it. And that's where we discovered a couple of artists, to be honest. Happy they send an email to that. Or other bands, they did reach out on social media, and there's always someone saying you need to send an email to this address, or you need to send an email to this guy, which it's me. But we're always open to listen. We always want to connect with someone. We can say no, of course, but we'd be more than happy to find a new exciting and talented artist via email or on social media or whatever else. That's the best way. to connect with us, because we're super open, like to check everything out, and we're super open to see if we can help an artist out.
Okay, I love to hear it. Now let's get into
now the inbox is gonna be super full.
I hope so. I mean, I want that.
He gave the wrong address though.
Yeah.
He provided the wrong address. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, of course.
Well, I'm a big fan of the Happy record, Imposter Syndrome. That's a good one out there. Sundress, we've talked about a lot. That's one that I've listened to quite a few times. Even some of the, I mean, we could go on and on about the good albums in the collection, but I want to ask you this because it's something that I think a lot of people have an interest in. They never know. Let's say that you had to start Rude Records all over again in the year 2021. So, you're at one of those kids out there who thinks they know the new music, the bands that everyone needs to know. You have some amount of disposable income to burn on trying to start a record label. So how would you do it? What is your advice to like start your own label? Because I mean, you guys do it all. You have the bands from all over the place. You do CDs, you do vinyl, you do cassettes, you do digital downloads. If you had to start from scratch all over again, what would you do?
Fat.
I go.
Yeah.
How would I do? I'd say that the best thing would be, you say we have unlimited money, right, to make this go.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
To start this. To start it.
Too easy.
Too easy. That's too easy, actually. But let's do
too
it.
Good, James.
Let's do it in a conservative way. You don't need to invest. You could just like invest something to the best band ever, right? Like to a legacy band that you are a fan of. But there could be an easy win or a huge fail. Depends on how you can like work. You need to when you start a record label, you need to grow your experience, like to make your like disasters, and then to learn from your mistakes, and to find a way to make things better, and to always make things better, like to improve the way you work, to improve the way you connect with people. So I'd suggest to start with a local band, as everyone does, that you think that might have it like to resonate on a global level. And you will try with one, and then you add another local band, and then you try to go a bit wider in terms of like area or like countries. Nowadays it's super simple, like to connect and get in contact with bands all around the world. Of course, you need to create a structure, you need to have a distributor, whether it's for digital or for physical. It takes time, but there's the need, like for a lot of people, like to try and put out record labels and to be tastemakers somehow, as we're now tastemakers, and that's and the only way that you can like create your own roster is like to show everyone the taste that you have, and you will make some good like choices, some bad ones, but you have unlimited money, so there's no problem, right? That's
yeah. I think like you know what, like I think actually, money has never been a problem for us. I mean, in the sense that we never had. I mean, not now that we're a bigger label, but at the very beginning, nobody helped us. So our strength was in the passion that we had, and the curiosity that we had to understand how it worked. And so that passion was recognized by all sides, and we started to know people. We transmit that to them and to the bands, and we grew that family. And now in 2021, answering to your question, I would definitely suggest people, if they feel to start their record label, because it's good. Like if they don't need money, it's not true that they need money. They need passion, and then they will get there where they're gonna make it and have the funds to grow bigger. But at the very beginning, it's not about money, as anything that works, right? And if we made it from Italy, everyone can make it. Not that we're not that we're not good, but it's been it's been a struggle for us. It's been a challenge over here, right? Becoming an international label. So I think that if somebody thinks that would love to do it, that they would definitely do it. It's the right choice in 2021.
I love it. No, I think that that's sound advice. I used to have a label. The only advice that I ever give somebody is don't order too many vinyl too soon. That's always place a small order first, because I've been surrounded by 300 unsold copies of something, and it takes up a lot of space in your apartment.
That's right. You made your mistakes, and you learn from that.
Yeah. No,
we sometimes order too much vinyl as well. We still do.
Yeah. I remember, the very first release on Root Records, that was a split. It was back in 2000 actually. So and we thought, we counted the shops that were around, and we thought, so there's something around 1,000 shops, so we should at least print 1,000 copies or 2,000. So we started with 2,000, and we sold probably 300. So it doesn't work like that, and we still have it in our garage somewhere. But it was worth it. Like, you understand that, and step by step you understand how it works. It's a great word. It's fantastic. But the main thing is that you will learn by doing it on your own, and by doing some mistakes. If you don't do mistakes, you haven't understood it properly.
I always say that I like that people buy cassettes, and if you're interested in music that you can put out in cassettes, do that first, because they take up way less space. They cost less to ship. That's an easy in.
That's true.
Yeah. Or flexes, the flexes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Even CDs. Make a digipack CD. That's light. It's easy to ship. It's easy. Start small. Dream big.
Yeah.
That's true. All right, guys. This has been really fun. I really love all that you guys do. One day I hope to have some Rude Records merch I can wear when we do these videos in the future. I know that you guys spend a lot of money on your actual artist merch, but I would wear just stuff that said Rude on it personally.
And over your address, we'll drop some. We'll send over some.
Thank you.
Yeah. Sorry for not doing it for this.
Oh, it's fine. It's fine.
No, you gotta have it. You gotta have it.
Well, before I let you go, I'll just say that the Sydney Sprague record, Maybe I Will See You at the End of the World, that comes out February 26th, so about a month from when we're recording this right now. And have you announced a release that will follow Sydney's, or is that under wraps still?
Under wraps.
Okay, under wraps. That's fine. That's fine. Well, I want to, congratulate you both on 20 years of Rude Records. I know, Federico, you've only been there for 10, but we'll give you credit for the other 10. You've helped them get this far. This has been a lot of fun. I knew that we'd have a good chat, and please keep doing what you do, because I think it's really important, and I think that people are grateful for labels like you to exist. So thank you so much. I'll let everyone know they can find you guys if they look up Rude Records basically anywhere on the planet. And if you're in the States, you can also reach out to Big Picture. They work with Rude a lot on a lot of different great projects. Thank them for helping us get this going. And yeah, I know it's nighttime for you guys, so enjoy the rest of your evenings. It's barely 1 o'clock here in the United States, so I'm gonna go and have lunch.
Yeah, enjoy your lunch.
Thank you, James, for having us. Thanks very much. And thanks to Ilich. Thanks so much. I hope we can meet very soon.
Yes, me too. As soon as the borders are open up. All right, guys. Have a great day.